Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way.
Welcome to the Next Reel Speakeasy on rashpixel.fm. I'm Andy Nelson, and that over there is Pete Wright.
Hey, everybody.
Each month on the Next Reel Speakeasy, we invite an industry guest to join us. And instead of serving up their favorite cocktails, they serve up movies that they love so that we can all talk about and spoil them. We'd like to welcome our guest to this month's show, costume designer and wardrobe stylist, Alana Morshead. Born in Reading, England, Alana moved to LA at the age of 14. She attended the LA Film School and, while there, dipped her toes into acting, landing bit parts in shows like Mad TV and Entourage. From there, she went on to work with a celebrity stylist before producing and directing her own feature film, Peach Plum Pear. Focusing on costumes, Alana worked as set costumer for the TV series The Man, then moved into costume design with IFC Midnight's 1 and 2. Her most recent film, Equals, starring Nicholas Hoult and Kristen Stewart, began streaming recently and will begin its theatrical run in the U.S. on July 15th. Alana just finished work on Michael Angarano's directorial debut, Avenues, set to premiere later this year. And when she's not hosting game nights with her friends, Alana is busy designing Brett Haley's new film, The Hero, starring Kristen Ritter, Sam Elliott, and Nick Offerman. Say hello to the folks, Alana.
Hi, everyone.
Alana. Oh, it's such a treat to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to be talking about a film that is you picked as your favorite, which is Never Let Me Go. So can you tell us why you picked this film and why it's your favorite?
I picked this film because, well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of Mark Romanek, the director. He's just been like a long time like inspiration for me, like as, you know, someone who works in film too. And I just love everything he does. And so when I saw this film, I was just completely moved and just so like emotionally affected. Like one of those films where you go and you watch it and then at the end you just like sit there for a couple of minutes and then just take it in. And then even like a few days after that, you know, it just like, it takes a while to really sink in. And there's always like new things you can, you know, think about. And I loved it.
Now, had you read the book before you saw the movie, or is this kind of your introduction to this story?
I actually did it the other way around. I read the book after I saw the film. And and the book's incredible too.
This is a book of the same name by Kazuo Ishiguro. Link in the show notes. What was your impression of the book? How well the adaptation went?
It was. I mean, obviously, like there was a lot of things that were left out, but I didn't think it was anything that was like, you know, vital for like the story for the film. But you know. Like some people prefer, I think maybe if I would have read the book before the film, I would have felt differently, but I felt like I just went into more detail and like that was even good. Like I got to see like more things that like weren't in the film, you know, I could like explore even more things.
My wife was one of those people who read the book first and she was one of those people who was just like, oh, but they left this out and they left that out. And you know, it's interesting because
so don't ever go to movies with her.
Well, my impression from her was that some of the stuff they left out were some of the elements that might have lent a little bit more to the world building, as far as kind of the world of the way the school was set up, and as far as like you know what some of the roles were with Madame and I'm blanking on their names, Miss Emily and the other one, Miss Lucy. And just kind of how their roles were and kind of how they how they defined the place, how people were kind of more afraid of these kids and all of that. Not having read the book, I actually felt like I didn't need any of that. I actually felt like, you know, I got everything I needed out of what Mark did with his directing here and what Alex Garland did with the adaptation. I felt like there was enough of the world building that they did here to give me kind of the sci-fi elements. I got a sense that people were a little kind of put off by these kids. They didn't really know what to think of them and all that. And I really liked that. So for me, again, not having read the book, I actually felt like this setup in the film wasn't really missing anything where I felt like I didn't get it.
I could not agree more. This was one of those that I didn't even know it was based on the book when I saw it. Obviously, I'd seen the trailer. I only just watched it. I'd never seen the film. And it, you know, often with adaptations, you get that sort of, it has pacing problems. It is rushed. It feels like they're just trying to shoehorn in these plot elements just to connect them later for no other real story purpose. And this film actually felt like it was perfectly paced. Like I got to know each of the characters at just the level I felt like I both needed to get to know them and wanted to get to know them, and felt totally redeemed. It is this high concept film that I couldn't get this image out of my head. Like I was going in for an X-ray, and they were laying that that lead blanket down on top of me because they were about to give me the X-ray, and that was the weight I was feeling of the high concept of this thing. Like I throughout the entire piece, I was expecting it to go vastly more sci-fi than it did, and that restraint of keeping it this really interpersonal, deeply personal drama about the relationships of these three people, and allowing the world to just exist was incredibly powerful for me.
I totally agree, because at the end of the day, it's a love story. You know, you don't need all those other elements around. Like they're not, you know, it's mostly just focused on these characters, and I love that that's what you were mostly focused on. It wasn't the sci-fi elements, which could have been, you know, highly dramatized, but I love that he chose not to like focus on that, and just, you know, you kind of forget about it until you see like little things like them, you know, swiping their wrist, or, you know, and then you're like, oh yeah. And then, but even when they're talking about like giving like donations, like you believe it because it just feels, he's made like such a real world
Well, and the whole concept of completion, I that was, again, that lead weight. It was just heavy on me throughout the entire thing, but it was done in such an approachable way that I found it easy enough to have the conversation about this film with my children, who are 10 and 14, and it was they found it as intriguing as I do. I mean, it's something that they are really interested in watching. I find it interesting to look at Alex Garland. I mean, I am a huge fan of this dude, and I had never even heard of this film prior to this. I feel like I've looked at his credits on IMDb. We've done movies of his on this show, and I've never noticed Never Let Me Go. It's like now it screams to me. But his sense of pacing, his articulation of pacing around this film, really you can feel it through even his more recent work through like Ex Machina. It has a very similar sort of beat to it. And
it's so interesting that he does so much sci-fi. That's what I love, is this is a guy who really has a good handle on the world of science fiction. And here is this film that is a sci-fi film, and he still shows so much restraint in the way that he depicted the world in the script. And he could have made it so much bigger, but he put in just enough. And it's like he and Mark kind of knew that, we need to, this isn't a story about that science fiction. I think that it was it Mark that said something like, it's not a science fiction story. I'm making a love story with fictional science content mixed in, which I actually thought was really good. And I think that they looked at it that way and ended up creating just kind of a beautiful story about these characters that really is kind of this reflection on mortality and, how we live our lives with the time we have, regardless of whether we're a clone.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I love that. It's like simple sci-fi almost. Like you take out all like the, when I think of sci-fi, you think of all these like high tech like qualities in a film, and this is just like simple. And I love that they just like strip everything away and just keep it like to what's like really necessary for the story and like what's really emotional.
It's funny. I couldn't help but think about, as I was watching this, comparing it to the movie The Island in my head. Yeah. I don't know. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah,
It's like it once you kind of get the conceit of both of these, it's like, oh yeah, it's, these clones exist so that, they can basically provide parts for the others. And I thought that was a totally different take. And it's funny because when I watched The Island, my immediate thought was this would have been a really interesting low budget sci-fi movie. I think I would have liked it so much more because I felt like the Michael Bay-ness of that movie just kind of pushed it too over the top for me. Yeah. It's like, and then I discovered this film thanks to you, and it's like, oh, here is that film. It's right here, and I do like it so much more.
Yeah, because there are actually some parts of The Island which I actually really think it's cool. I'm actually into and I like. But yeah, I love that. I totally agree with like the similarities, and this is just more of like a real take on that story.
The whole concept that Alex is dealing with here, and I think it's funny that he's playing with, obviously based on Ishiguro's work, but the fact that he keeps being drawn to these stories about what makes us human, when you look at particularly the road that he took from this to Ex Machina, this idea that the body is the vessel. How much do we attribute the vessel's existence and operation to humanity? I found that this film really articulates that well, and part of that is because we see so little of the science. It allows us to be, I think, much more cerebral about it. What's your sense? Did you find yourself sort of challenging those sorts of concepts or conceits of humanity as you were watching this, or did it keep you right at the kind of relationship level?
I think I was just so invested in the emotional aspect of the relationship. Like I love sci-fi film too, but I still, no matter what genre movie it is, if I'm not emotional or if I don't have some kind of like physical reaction either, like I'm just not, it's just an emotional investment with a film. And, and I keep going back, to Alex Garland. And I love that he is like, he's very much like focused on sci-fi also, but he's just like, it's so personal. It's like, it doesn't matter if it was about like zombies or aliens or anything. You believe it.
That was the first film I saw of his, was 28 Days Later. And it was, It's one of my very, very favorite films. But again, because of that focus on the humanity and making what we run from that much more robust in capability was a real novelty, but really we're still just running from ourselves. And I think that was a really powerful message of that film.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're just, still like, we have emotions and we have feelings and we're human beings, and it doesn't matter like where we are like in our society or what we're doing, we're still just, we feel things.
I think we skipped over a very important part of this discussion, which is telling people what really this film is about.
This is certainly one where I think that it warrants a reminder that we're going to be spoiling it pretty heavily, because it's, there's, it's kind of critical to have seen this film before you really listen to this one.
Consider the spoiler horn sound. Right now.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
The film is about, I loved this description that I saw on Wikipedia. It is a 2010 British dystopian alternative history romantic drama film, which I think hits all the points.
Yeah.
It is about these three characters. It's an alternative history. It takes place in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but it kind of sets up in the 50s that they came up with this thing that they could do to kind of cure people, kind of make people better and increase life expectancy, so people were living over 100 years. Of course, in order to do that, it meant that they were creating clones. And as we learn through the course of the film, these three characters, played by as their adults, Carey Mulligan, Keira Knightley, and Andrew Garfield, are three of these clones, and trying to get a sense of their world and their place in it as they kind of come to terms with the fact that inevitably they're going to have to give up organs and die for the people who need them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you know what I love about it too, that it's something, even though it's sci-fi, it's something that could actually happen. It's not so far-fetched, like, or I think so anyway, like, one day this could actually happen to us.
It completely, totally a different sense of well, I guess a complete sense of humor change, but it also reminded me of the Monty Python sketch from The Meaning of Life, when the guy who's the organ donor and they come to collect his organs, and they take him into the back room and just start hacking away at him.
That's very much what it felt like at the end of this movie, actually.
It's pretty funny, yes. Just quite a different tonality. But,
let's talk a little bit about Mark Romanek, director. What is it that you are such a fan of Mark?
I just love that he takes so many risks. His music videos are like some of the most iconic music videos, like the Fiona Apple Criminal video, the 9 Inch Nails Closer, the Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson Scream. Like he just pushes so many boundaries. Like even his music videos are like, they're films within themselves. Like he still manages to like create such a world that even for a few minutes you're completely lost in. And so I grew up like watching music videos on TV, and then like still now, like I love watching music videos on YouTube, like just seeing what people are still doing. And even now, like he's still making videos because he's still, probably like loves doing it. And that's why I was so excited for him to do something narrative. And I buy it. I buy everything he does. I believe it.
He's done so few narrative films. I think it's this and 1 Hour Photo. He's credited to another film in 1985 called Static, which does look like a kind of a feature comedy drama, but not something I ever heard of. I think it's probably just one of those indie things that kind of pushed him into the music video world. And it's funny because I had forgotten like specifically which videos he directed, but you mentioning those names, I could instantly picture them, and I think that says a lot about what he was doing with them. Like they're kind of just iconic visual feasts, is what his music videos always felt like.
Mm-hmm. And like everyone, just like you said, that you name them and you're like, oh yeah, that video, like I know that video, because they're just so iconic.
It's still pretty rare to associate a director to a music video.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And he is definitely one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your sense of the transition from 1 Hour Photo as a narrative film to this one? They were, looks like about 7-8 years apart, and it has been a long time since I've seen 1 Hour Photo. But
Yeah, me too.
but in terms of his directorial voice, what do you see in this film that makes it a particularly Mark Romanek film?
I think it's the tone, definitely. Like he sets a certain tone where, I mean, even like his videos, they're not like super upbeat and like, happy and positive and has a great ending. It's just they're pretty dark. And these people in his film, they have real problems and real issues. And even in his videos, like they're overcoming something. And I think he's just really kept that, like, and I keep saying this, like, real again, like, where it's just believable, and it's just something that I connect to when I see that, when I see someone, going through these things or these obstacles, like, you just relate to these people because it's like real people with real problems.
Something I noticed with him is that he definitely is a director who creates a definite visual style with his films. Mm-hmm. I don't remember everything about 1 Hour Photo, but I do remember just a lot of the shots. I mean, he kind of works with, as I recall, fairly still camera. He also liked a lot of kind of color palettes, and that one certainly had a lot of kind of the clinical white, as Robin Williams would be kind of looking at the photos with just kind of the white lights around him and stuff. But also I think there were a lot of just other darker colors. Like I felt like there were some reds when he was like in the developing room. And I can't quite remember exactly, but I felt like there was some stronger colors throughout that film. And this film also, I think he really developed a very carefully planned color palette that was very muted. And I think, I can't remember if it was him or somebody who I heard say that it was, they wanted to find a way to translate the look that, or the feel that they got from Ishiguro's writing, the way that his prose was so sparse and so cold and clinical, the way that he wrote the novel. Wanted to find a way to translate the feel of that into the look of this film, which it instantly, just as soon as the film started, and you're getting those kind of full screen color dissolves of different, like, really muted yellows or greens or blues, and then the whole feel of the film feels that way. It's this kind of cold sense of this world, and instantly I just felt like this is a director who has a clear sense of the vision he has in his head of the story he's telling here.
Yeah, and I think that also goes back to like when he was doing music videos, because you have so little time to tell such a story that everything is so crucial. Like, the whole frame is considered with him, with the color palette, with the production design, with the cameras, with the costumes, with the everything. And that's what I just like admire that as a filmmaker. It's just so like carefully thought out.
It is actually. I found it remarkable that he found a way. There's this contextual contrast between Hailsham, the school, and then going into the doctor's office. Right? It was like you open this beautiful oak door and you go into this like sterile room that and your initial there's an initial shock to it because it feels very white, but only in contrast to where you were in the room just outside it. Once your eyes adjust, I find myself realizing he's managed to deaden a sterile room. Like it feels like the life and the energy has been sucked out of this doctor's office as a result. And again, that feeds the narrative vision for me. Like I got a very clear picture, I think, of what I needed to out of the experience that these kids were going through with their checkups, the level of the extremes that they go to keep these kids healthy.
What I think is so strange is that before he was offered this job, he was actually attached to the Wolfman. To direct that, which just seems so strange because based on everything else that he had done, it just doesn't seem like the sort of film that would fit. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was going to bring an interesting vision to that story.
Who was it that was in the Wolfman?
It was Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro. Yeah.
And I read again that I didn't see the Wolfman, but I had heard about, because I was excited for him to, another film for him to be doing, and then I heard that he had exited because he wanted to make, again, like a more like darker, like serious film, like both of these films are that he made, they're pretty dark. And I think the Wolfman wanted to go a little bit more, maybe not as dark.
Which is a shame because it probably could have used that in retrospect.
It's the Wolfman.
I didn't see it either. I mean, but I really enjoy some of the classic Wolfman stories. And I think that they opted to go with the more kind of the light tone that they had a little bit from the old days.
Commercial,
but then again, but I still much prefer something that, I don't know. I feel like I would have preferred his version.
Yeah, well, I definitely would have seen it if he did it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Mark Romanek, he said that he got this email that somebody wrote to him and said, I saw your film and it made me cry, and I haven't reacted to a film emotionally like that in years. And I called my father because I realized I hadn't spoken to him in 3 weeks, and I told him how much I love him and how much I appreciate what a good father he's been. This is one of those films where, I mean, I finished it and I was like, wow, that was a really interesting film. And then over the next few days, I found it hadn't left my head. Yeah. It just kind of stuck there. It's one of those movies, you know what I mean?
Absolutely is, because it's just about connecting as human beings, like emotional connections. And that's essentially what we all strive for. And, you know, you see these characters, like what they go through, and it's something that, you know, I feel like you can relate to with anybody in your life, like family, friends, and especially when people leave your life, you know, you realize like how important all that time is. Like, you know, Kathy could have spent all that time with Tommy, but that was 10 years missed, you know, and they just had the last little bit of time at the end. And you realize just like what's important to you. And I think that's so cool. And I love that people reach out to filmmakers and say that. And I love that filmmakers are receiving those things. It's like validation for what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's such an emotional process to get involved with a story on such a long term, you know, I think sometimes people forget that because they go and spend 2 hours in this story and then they walk out and leave and don't think about it again. And it can be very frustrating. And I think it is important to do that. And I think it's great that to know for him to have realized that this film has touched people like that.
Yeah,
we need to write your filmmaker campaign. Enough writing, Congressman. Nothing gets done anyway. Write your filmmaker.
That's getting nowhere. Yeah,
how you felt. They need it.
That's right. That is actually you both have made this point that I hadn't quite connected to, which is this idea about the relationships, this trio in this film. One of the things that's so fascinating about it is that even though they are all saddled with this impending doom, that they are all going to be harvested for, you know, they're just walking meat bags right now, substitute meat bags, that the relationships between them end up being more important than any of their immediate struggles. And particularly in Andrew Garfield's character, Tommy, you know, I think we get this great sense of him as a vessel of identity that he knows, he discovers through the process of being taken apart. He discovers even more powerfully, more palpably who he is. Mm-hmm. And I think the same thing can be held as for Kathy, but she really ends up being just sort of our narrative bellwether. You know, we follow her as kind of the main narrative character. Keira Knightley as the character who sort of gives up, right? I mean, she is harvested. She loses everything kind of by choice, and lets go. But in Tommy, we get this character who discovers his identity, and I think that ends up being kind of a powerful message too. That sense of reclamation.
Mm-hmm. Like even when you know what your destiny is and what your future holds, you still have a choice of how you're gonna go on.
We do a segment on here. Andy and I have taken of late to talking about the lessons we can learn from the pairing of the very first shot of a film and the very last shot of a film. First shot, last shot. Andy, you want to recap what those are?
Yeah, the very first shot of this film is we're behind Kathy, looking at her silhouette as we see the operating room on the other side of the glass. And so it kind of sets up a sense of the space and Kathy. And we hear some of her voiceover as she's kind of introducing this. And then the last shot, we have a similar shot of her as she's looking at a field from the other way around. We're looking at her face as she's kind of staring at this field. And we see, and then the last shot is actually this fence, this barbed wire fence. We see several pieces of plastic stuck on the fence, blowing in the wind. And then, of course, we dissolve off to that pale yellow. So that's kind of that's the way we begin and end this film, set up by Mark.
I gotta admit, I was stymied by the last shot. And I'm thinking about it now. Andy's totally poisoned me because now I think about the first shot and last shot, and I find myself really living in a constant state of shame if I think I don't get it. And so in this one, like the first shot, I get. There's this sense of distance. We get this sort of gift of distance where anytime I think you're looking behind a character over their shoulder, you're sort of getting that next layer of removal from whatever the subject is, and I think that ends up being kind of an interesting lesson for this film, particularly her role as she's taking us through it, that she is as of now a level removed from it, and that is kind of the place where we as the audience are as we are introduced to it and move closer and closer to it. I didn't get the last shot.
I think from both shots, like we're kind of seeing from her perspective, like what is actually in front of her, like in that moment, like actually, like physically in front of her, and like what, emotionally and metaphorically. When she's looking at Tommy, like that is what we're about to go into. We're about to see her life with this person and her struggle with it. And then at the end, she's looking out into this field. It's almost like a blank canvas. Like she knows in a month she's about to, start donating. So she has, not a lot of time left. And then it's just, all the people she loves are gone. And it's like, almost like, does she start over? Does she go somewhere else? Like that's her next chapter that she's about to jump into.
What was the deal with the plastic on the barbed wire? Do we know? I mean, I feel like I may have missed a plot point.
I don't think it was a plot point. Other than my sense of it was, we do hear that line when they're trying to find, they think that they found the match for Ruth, and they go to find her, and then they have that whole conversation about, none of these people are going to be our match. We are the dead prostitutes in the alley, or whatever it is they're saying, the people in these porn magazines that we're looking at, all that sort of stuff. That's kind of where they come from. And she says, we come from the trash. And so the fact that it's a couple pieces of kind of discarded plastic that kind of got stuck on that fence, my sense was it was almost like she was kind of seeing like that's kind of where the world had put them, just these little pieces of trash kind of floating in the breeze. But I don't know. I just felt like there was so much more to it than that. Like there's this beautiful field and there's all this other stuff going on. And so I don't know. I guess I felt Kathy might be kind of reflecting on her place in the world. She's about to go offer up these organs and kind of that's the end of her life. But like she says, everybody completes. Everybody is going to have to die. These pieces of plastic trash that are stuck on the fence really could apply to anybody.
Well, and by extrapolation, anybody, not just the donors. Everybody eventually dies, and yeah, I think that ends up being
just a matter of when.
Yeah. What is the gift you're going to take away from this life?
Yeah,
and that's a point of the film that I really enjoy, is this idea that everything in it is really compressed to the focus of these three clones that we're watching, but it really is like anybody else in life. Everybody's going to die. Everybody has this kind of fear of death, and how they approach it can be so different. And I like that these three people kind of have a different approach to the end of their own lives, all as it's compressed for us in this short space of their 20 some years of life that they actually have. It's interesting. I find it just such an interesting way to tell this story about these characters in this universe that just, I don't know, it just gives us a really interesting glimpse into humanity. And I found it very touching.
Was Carey Mulligan, is there a better person to have cast for Kathy?
No way.
If there was, I would love to meet her.
I mean, she was mesmerizing. It was there was so much subtext with her performance, which I loved. There's so much she didn't say, but there's so much that we felt, which I loved.
She was, she had to be, in order to play the role of Kathy, had to be really good at being passive and observing stuff and just kind of the act of subtlety. And she nailed it to a T.
Oh, yeah.
And she was just so good at just kind of at observing. And she had these moments like at the end when Tommy was about to go under, just the way that she looked at him, and there's this ever so slight, like little tiny nod that she gives him. It's almost not even noticeable. But it's just the tiniest thing. And I'm just like, oh, that was just so touching. Like broke my heart right there.
Yeah. She's like the ultimate caretaker, like in life.
Yeah, she worked well as a carer, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you know what this movie, though? It makes me appreciate her other performances even more, even in something, I loved her in Drive. We've talked about Drive on the show. She was just terrific. She was, Daisy Buchanan in The Great Gatsby. I thought she was great in that. Inside Llewyn Davis, which is, I think I liked it more than, maybe I liked it more than you, Andy.
Yep.
Okay. You probably didn't have to answer that quickly. Whatever. But even all the way back to, Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. I actually like her more in that movie today than I did yesterday before I had seen this film.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm still a fan of An Education. I think that's my fave.
That I have not seen, actually, which I know.
You would love it.
I know.
You'd like it.
That was an amazing film. And actually, that is the film that got her this job. And I think it's so funny that she read this book when it came out and she was in love with it. And she's like, oh, if they ever make it, I have to play Kathy. I have to play Kathy. And but she didn't even know they were making the movie. And these guys were moving forward making it. And they were struggling to find their Kathy. And Mark is just like, none of these women work. And then Peter Rice, who's the head of Searchlight, he was actually at Sundance and he was watching An Education. And in the middle of the movie, he started texting Mark. He's just like, hire the genius Mulligan. Just telling her midway through. And so that's how they found Carey. And then, of course, she's just like, of course I'll play Kathy. And
amazing.
it's like, that's just cool. Like kismet.
It's a great movie. You got to see it.
I know. Well, see, now I'm looking down the list. I'm like, oh, great. That's like the movie I haven't seen. And that's how she got this stupid job.
Yep.
How did I end up the dummy in this conversation? Andrew Garfield as Tommy.
Pre-Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Garfield.
So fragile. So much emotions. I loved it.
Yeah, exuberant. He is not in this film. I actually found him really delightful. I thought he was the embodiment of eggshells in the beginning of the film, right? And just the just instant rage that he could trigger, even as a character, the young character played Tommy. I think Garfield embodies that so well later. Like once we are introduced to Tommy as played by Garfield, the older Tommy, I found myself like on edge, waiting for him. How are they going to exercise his rage? And I think it was just perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That scream is one of those that just kind of like rips through the screen that you're watching it on and right into your soul. It was
you can totally just like feel it like brewing when they're getting told that this is it, and you can just see it like just boiling underneath. And it's going to happen.
And it comes after such a painful conversation when Miss Emily kind of just bluntly admits, we were only doing the art to figure out if you even had souls.
Yeah.
It's just like, gosh,
I
this
know.
is what they think.
People.
It really is just, it's like shocking and just so brutal the way that they dealt with this. And then they talk about how they've given up on these sorts of schools and now it's just battery farms. And I'm like, it sounds awfully like the Matrix. Like now they're just harvesting these people, like growing them in a farm and just like, this is not the future that I would want. It's pretty horrifying.
Isn't it funny that, and I think a sign of just Garfield's talent, I am very fond of him as an actor, and I may be, now that we've met the new Spider-Man, I think I may be the last holdout that actually really appreciates what he brought to the character of Spider-Man. But isn't it fascinating that this year, 2010, he came out with both Never Let Me Go and The Social Network, ending up playing two very, very different characters.
So different. Mm-hmm.
I remember Terry Gilliam. I don't remember which festival it was at, but he was talking about Andrew Garfield, who had appeared in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, Andrew Garfield. He's totally going to be the next big star." And I don't think I totally saw it in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, but I mean Gilliam did, and then of course, then you see these films that immediately follow it. It's like, oh, of course, there it is. It's right there. It's like this is a guy who really just has that connection to that part inside of him that he's able to expose so well.
Yeah, and just has a lot of range. I mean, I love that he really has such a resume and so many different roles, and like as an actor, like enjoys like having that range, which I think is really cool.
And Keira Knightley.
Oh, I love Keira Knightley.
Do you love Keira Knightley?
I love her so much. Yeah, I love her. The Duchess is one of my absolute favorite films.
I think, and they filmed some of this at one of the same places they filmed some of that movie too. I can't remember which one, but I know I read that somewhere, which is funny.
It's so good. Yeah, I mean, I love a period piece, like whenever, but I think she's great. I love her. I'm a big fan.
So you must be all about the Pirates of the Caribbean as a period piece.
I do love
with Keira Knightley.
There
you go.
It's good.
The beach at Holcombe is also featured in this film. Knightley previously shot scenes at nearby Holcombe Hall for her 2008 film, The Duchess. That's what it was.
Oh, cool.
Talk about a woman with range.
Mm-hmm.
From these period pieces, which she sort of has a corner of the market on some of these great period pieces right now. To a film we didn't like all that much, Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, Everest was tough. But
I liked Everest.
I know.
I think I'm the one holdout on that one.
But it was entertaining. It had a lot of tension. I mean, it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I thought.
What are you gonna do? But we just watched again The Imitation Game recently.
I love it.
Which was stunning. It was terrific.
Absolutely brilliant. That film.
Yes, absolutely. She is just delightful. She has a very just the uniqueness of her performance. Her charisma on screen is inimitable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it shows in this film. I'm never quite sure, and I think intentionally so. I think this was played intentionally so. I'm not sure what kind of relationship I'm supposed to build with her. She moves through her own arc as this sort of gentle member of the trio, and then into sort of a spiteful or more sort of sadistic kind of jealousy that comes out between her and Kathy, into this sort of fatigued, this sort of dried out kind of shell of a woman as they've harvested her rather grimly. And I think Knightley handled it really, really well.
Well, and gentle member of the trio, but I found her character so interesting because she was the one who was kind of ruthless, not to pull her name into it too much. But that whole way that she started her relationship with Tommy, almost specifically to get at Kathy, to kind of spite Kathy. It was just painful. It was like it was just rough the way that she kind of treated Kathy, and it's almost like she would befriend Kathy and then she'd stick something in, it's like, pull him in and then stick him with a pin and but then give him a hug to make him feel better about it. And it was like this weird relationship. And I think what's so interesting, and this is something my wife talked about with the book, is that, just the way that Ruth really struggled trying to find the way to operate in this world. Like she didn't quite get it, and that's why the awkward things that she would pull in from watching the Friends, how they were mimicking the TV show and all of that sort of stuff. And she said in the book it was almost even more awkward the way that she would do weird things. And but I felt a lot of that stuff in her character kind of came from her just struggling, trying to figure out what she was going to get out of this life. And I enjoyed her character arc as she kind of was that one who was much more rough and kind of tried to figure things out, and over time, realized, I've been hurting these people, and now I'm going to kind of let it go. That was really touching. I found that decision of hers when she kind of stepped away was pretty powerful for me.
Yeah, I think when you're about to die, especially, a lot of people, they on their deathbeds, they forgive people or they make amends. Like when it comes to that point, you just kind of let everything go, and you kind of forget that these kids at Hailsham, they only know of this school. They don't know anything outside of that school. But the natural, feeling of affection towards the opposite sex, as a young girl, you want a boy's attention, or a girl, is interested in another, or a girl's interested in another boy, you have that, and and there's still those human elements that they had. I mean, that's why they had the gallery, the art shows, is to see are they really, are they capable of do they have souls? Are they capable of feelings? And then just seeing that that's a natural progression as human beings, that's all they really had. And then even just copying the TV and those aspects, it's petty, but it's like, what teenage girls do, especially when there's 5 people and 2 are couples, there's always going to be one left out. Who wants to be the one that's left out?
Exactly. Speaking about these three, definitely makes me want to talk about the younger versions of them. Isabel, I don't know, it was Makeley Small, Ella Purnell, and Charlie Rowe. And just how wonderfully cast these 3 kids are, especially Isabel as the young Kathy. I'm like, It was seriously like a young Carey Mulligan lookalike. It kind of blew me away.
So talented too, yeah.
I thought what was really interesting hearing these guys talk about the way that they chose to make this film. They would rehearse the 3 kids because they really wanted these different sides, different periods in their life to really feel like it was coming from the same person. They would rehearse the 3 kids with the adults watching, and then they would have the adults do the same scene that the kids would do, so the kids could see how the adults would do it. And that kind of helped it helped inform the kids as ways that they could do it. And the adults would kind of talk to them about choices they were making and all that to really help both of them get into the same page with the characters. And they even sometimes would have like one of the kids, when they were filming a kid, acting the scene with the adult off camera, playing the other kid, so that they could really kind of just live in the same shells. I thought that was such a fascinating way to put this story together.
That's so cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
That is very cool. The kids did just an admirable job in this film, as did, I got to say, how fun it was to see Domhnall Gleeson in here. Right? Hey, again, you talk about on-screen charisma. I really have just fallen for this guy. He's fantastic to watch, and brings kind of a complexity of personality that I think is again unique. But I think Andy, you think this is where Alex discovered and started pulling for him for Ex Machina?
It made me think that, it just seemed to, he's such a prevalent part of that film, obviously. And, Alex Garland was obviously around for this one. It seemed like, hey, yeah, this guy might be good for my movie. I don't know. But, he has done a number of little sci-fi things recently. Because wasn't he in one of those episodes of
Black Mirror?
Black Mirror, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was in the best episode.
Wasn't he? He was the memory one, right?
Oh, so good. Yeah. That was an amazing episode.
Fantastic.
That was an incredible hour of television. That was just, I thought I was like blown away by that episode. It's really good.
Plus, he was in the little indie Force Awakens.
Yeah. That old thing. Yeah.
That old thing.
Yeah, he's great.
It is great to see him on screen. And the rest of the people I think were great in the roles they had. Sally Hawkins, Charlotte Rampling. But really, this is largely a film helmed by Carey, Andrew, and Keira, and I think those 3 really do a stellar job of carrying the weight of the film on their shoulders.
Making of I don't know, producers Andrew McDonald and Alan Reich. Any contention around getting this film made that you uncovered, Andy?
Nothing about the film getting made. I know that these guys, I think Alex actually had worked with them before, and he and Kazuo are friends, and he actually got the galley copy of the novel. I think he started reading it before Kazuo had even finished it, and he already knew, right, just from that little bit of the book, that he wanted to make this he wanted to adapt this into a screenplay. And asked Kazuo for his blessing, and then went to these producers who he had worked with before. And it's like, I really want to make this. And it sounded like, just from his passion for the story, they were like, sure, let's do it, and kind of jumped on board, which it's just great. It's nice to hear that sometimes it can be that easy.
Yeah, that it actually works.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And I think that they ended up, this is one of those situations where I think that they found all the right people, bringing Mark on to direct it and these actors to do it. I think that they did find the right team. Adam Kimmel was the cinematographer. And like I said, just the stillness of the camera, the way that it moved slowly. There was a little bit of handheld when Tommy was screaming and stuff like that, but it didn't seem like there was anything really big. It just felt very kind of steadily paced, which seemed to fit, again, kind of the stillness and the muted colors, all kind of going back to the writing that Ishiguro did.
He has this knack for capturing depth of scene, right? I feel like there were a number of just really dramatically or beautifully set long roads. When they uncover the boat, on the beach, like that lone boat in the distance with the grass over it. I think it was just a really beautiful. Beautifully architected shot. I think it really lends to, again, the distance between them and their destination. I think that was just beautiful. It's my kind of shooting. I really kind of resonate with that visually. It was easy to watch.
Yeah, and he hasn't done a feature since this.
I know.
He's done some like video shorts and I mean, he was second unit on Foxcatcher. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I would think that he would be jumping in there and getting some more stuff going. But
I saw he had some things in maybe in development, and I know he does a lot of commercials. So
yeah, it could be. Probably pays better.
Yeah, definitely.
A number of folks on the production design team that I think it's a fascinating set, again, because you talk about the fact that this has science fiction elements, though it's not a science fiction film. It might as well have been Downton Abbey. You know what I mean? Like, it really felt of a piece of its own period and its own universe. Nothing felt really out of place, even the fancy armbands and the metal plates. The overall production design, I felt right at home.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and that's, they didn't focus on the sci-fi, because I feel like if there were, those elements, like, if it was built up, I think it would be distracting. I think it would take away from this love story. I think as an audience, we wouldn't, we would be too focused on those,
Talking about the production design and just the look of the film, and coming into your neck of the woods a little bit, I think it's definitely worth also talking about the costume design here. And just like how it fits the overall palette of the that kind of muted look of the film, but also just kind of the I don't want to say like patchwork. I'm not sure what the right word is, but the way that these clones dressed in context of secondhand, and just kind of almost like the secondhand nature that like the toys. Like, I couldn't get over the fact that it's the day to pick our toys, and it's all these broken leftovers.
It's a kazoo.
It's pieces. Just like the leftovers that no one wants.
It was amazing, and looking at their costumes, it didn't strike me right away until I think after. I think it was later in the film, but it kind of struck me all of a sudden. It's like, it is kind of patchy looking. What did you think of that, and how it tied into kind of the whole muted feel and everything?
I think it kind of is the same, like we said about those toys. It's like kind of cobbled together and hand-me-downs, or someone's grown out of it, or they went to like a, secondhand shop. And I love that there wasn't any blacks, I noticed, which was really cool. There was no black. I definitely noticed that in the costume design, but I don't even think in the film there wasn't really any black used.
Why did that jump out at you?
Because everything felt really like soft and cozy and warm. And I think when they're having like the topic is so sterile and so cold that, spoken in this world that just feels so like soft and cozy. And there was really like plush, like textures and wools and like warm colors, and everything was very faded and worn, and just felt like a cozy sweater you just like put on and have like a cup of tea with it. And I think that just really fit into this cold conversation where they were just so blunt about what their job was, like why they were there. I thought it was just so well done. It really just kind of, again, made you kind of forget like what these kids were in for.
Yeah, it's just such a strange world and expectations for them, and it had such a secondhand feel to it. And I also loved how the people of the world reacted to them. And like even the ones who were kind of like helping him out and stuff, like who would drop things off and whatnot. I don't know, they just the way that they would react to these young kids and everything, and just kind of give them that look like, there's something about you I don't want to get close to you. And
or like even that I know what's going on and I'm just shamed that I can't tell you. That's definitely the feeling I got when the guy brought the toys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like these poor kids are getting so excited for this crap.
Yeah. Yeah, bumper crop.
Yeah.
Right. It's a real bumper crop year.
So sad.
I forget the character's name, not Charlotte Rampling, but the woman that they went to see.
Madame.
And yes. What was it she said when she touched Kathy's face? She said, I feel so bad for you creatures.
Yes.
She used the word creatures, and that really hit me. I was like, wow, they're not even considered humans, or they're still looked at as like almost like robots, or not of this world.
Yeah, I think that's another piece. I mean, they just built such a fantastic language again to separate them from humanity. I think that's just they had to invent a whole new sort of utility of language, whole new vernacular to talk about them, so that we don't get too close to them.
Yeah,
and it's interesting that this group of beings, these clones, had kind of created their own, almost like their own fantasies within their world, like these deferrals that they thought that they could get to prolong things. It's just interesting to see how within their own closed society of the clones, they had started. It's almost like their own storytelling of the myths and the things that they could, get to kind of, get more out of their own lives. It was really interesting, and then it was really hurtful almost how these other people viewed all of that.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like they needed that myth of the deferral to have some kind of goal to get to, something to reach, to look forward to. Otherwise, if they didn't know about it, for it never, the myth had never been said, they would have no reason for existence. At least that gives them some kind of hope or something to look forward to. That's why it's just it's so devastating when they find out that it's not real.
How was Rachel Portman's music for you?
I thought it was very emotional, and it came in like at the perfect times when we're supposed to be feeling something, but it wasn't distracting. It just gave you that little extra like push, to really feel something.
I think that she's got such a brilliant connection to emotion in her music anyway. I just really love the stuff that she does with her scores that she's done. I mean, there are just some fantastic bits out there. Cider House Rules, Chocolat,
yeah.
Even The Duchess, she did that one. She's just done some just beautiful, beautiful music. And here the music is just heartbreaking.
Yes.
It's so passionate, but I read something she said where she didn't have the violins use the vibrato because she didn't want it to sound too sentimental. And I thought that was interesting. It's like she wrote this lush music, but then kind of found a way to almost keep it a little more on the clinical side. So the emotion is there, but she also pulls back on the sentimentality, which was so interesting because it really kind of gives you both worlds, and it still breaks your heart.
She has an massive and incredibly eclectic list of credits. I had no idea that she had done all of these films, and it was before I was paying attention so much to any composer that didn't start with a J. But Pyromaniac's Love Story, Benny and June, one of my favorites, to the Joy-Luck Club, Road to Wellville. Right after Pyromaniac's Love Story comes Palookaville and To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. Are you kidding?
And then Emma, which is what she won her Oscar for.
That's right. And I mean, just an amazing body of work, this woman. Amazing.
And I don't think we can talk about the music that Rachel Portman does in this film without also bringing up the really great song "Never Let Me Go" by quote Judy Bridgewater, which is completely fictional. And I swear, I heard that song and I'm like, oh, I feel like I remember this song. I feel like I've heard it before. And they really pulled the wool over my eyes, finding out that they wrote it specifically for this film and that Jane Monheit is actually singing it. But what a beautiful song.
Yeah.
I think the only song I've heard of hers, she did like the end credits song in Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Yes, she did. Yeah. Oh, she's
it was the cover of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I believe.
Yeah, she's just fantastic.
So something that I really loved about this song, which is it's a beautiful song, but I don't know. I found the moment for me, one of the moments for me that really just touched me was when Kathy is sitting in her room and she's listening to that song and she's kind of clutching that pillow. And it was just this moment where it's like she's kind of connecting to another being and feeling that emotion that, these kids aren't trained for. And And now I'm forgetting if Miss Emily pops up behind her or if that was just my wife telling her that Miss Emily popped up behind her in the book. Because I know there was a Miss Emily moment.
When she's clutching the pillow, it's actually Ruth, who's like, she turns around and she's standing in the doorway. And I think, doesn't that happen again later on in the movie? There's a moment like that. Am I thinking of something else? Where with Kath?
I feel like there's one with Miss Emily, and then I feel like there's also one with Kathy. I feel like it happens a couple times in the film. And it's I don't know, there's something about, I don't know, I guess the song has such kind of an emotional core. I mean, Never Let Me Go. It just feels so definitive, never, with these people who are going to be dying, leading very short lives. And this idea of connecting to another person in that time to such an emotional level. And these people are like never trained for any of that. It's such an interesting song choice, and I'm curious at how it actually worked in the book, because you don't ever get to hear a song really. But,
is there a song talked about in the book? There's no attachment to music in the book. It's not like a high fidelity kind of a thing.
No. Yeah.
Interesting.
How'd this do around award season?
It did get a few wins for awards and a lot of nominations. It had 7 wins, 26 nominations. Nothing hugely big. I mean, like Academy of Sci-Fi, Fantasy, and Horror Films. Andrew Garfield won Best Supporting Actor there for the Saturn. A lot of different things, but nothing huge. Carey Mulligan won Best Independent Film Award for Best Actress. And it's one of those films where I feel like it just didn't connect. For some reason, it didn't connect the way that I feel like it should have. Like, I don't know if it was marketing or what. I found it very interesting kind of reading up on this. 5 weeks into its release, LA Times called the box office take an undeniable disappointment commercially. And the film experts and the executives at Fox Searchlight, they came up with 5 reasons it failed. And I imagine now, after reading this, that anytime a film isn't making its money, the executives all have to sit around coming up with the reasons that it failed, so they could tell the investors why it didn't make their money back. They said that the timing, the airing was too early in the year when lighter summer fare is popular.
Oh yes, this is definitely an autumn.
Right. Yeah. Right. This is an awards season sort of movie.
Yeah.
They said it came from a novel that is particularly difficult to adapt.
Well, I obviously disagree with that.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. They got mixed reviews from critics, even though what I read is that they were still generally positive. But I guess some critics were a little harsh on it. They said it had a depressing tone, and they said it lacked an appeal to male
That's it, because it's not a Hollywood movie.
It's not everybody dies. Yeah. That's the message.
It doesn't have, flying cars and superheroes. So it's, but I feel like it was a fairly quiet film. Like, not many people know about this. And I think a lot of it is based on referrals. Like, have you seen this film? You have to go and watch it. And then people who I have told, they've said great things about it. People just don't know about this film.
I feel like I steamrolled over that last point. It's lack of appeal to male viewers. I obviously disagree, but I haven't talked to anyone else besides you two about this film and my children.
Why? Because it's a drama that is kind of quiet and ends in a slightly depressing way. This is, I think, it's one of those films where it's like a really fascinating story. I mean, it's like you could say, oh, well, The Lobster doesn't appeal to male viewers, or I don't know. I feel like they were coming up with reasons that just to pitch to people like, oh, this is why we think it didn't work. But
it's a scapegoat. It's a scapegoat.
It's
a bullet.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I almost picked The Lobster. That was my second choice.
I loved that movie.
Yeah,
so good.
So this movie, it did cost $15 million to make, which in today's dollars is about $16 million. It wasn't too long ago. And then it ended up making domestically here in the States only about $2.5 million, internationally about just under $9.5 million. So all told, yes, it did end up losing money at the box office, unfortunately. It ended up losing about $33,000 per adjusted finished minute. So,
ouch.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's just like, didn't connect with its audience, but it's really disappointing because this is a film. It does. It really sucks.
It really
I feel like this is one of those movies that people should see. There's a lot here.
What does that put us on the spreadsheet, Andy?
Oh, well, of the movies that we've found information for, it's the bottom. It's number 5.
It's the last.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Well, now I think we should take it to the Coliseum.
Let's do it.
Let's rank it. Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel, everybody, and you just fill in. Never Let Me Go in the search box there. It could not be easier. You fill it in. You add this to your account, to your list, and then we'll see. We'll see how it does. Filmo a filmo. Never Let Me Go versus.
First up, we have Never Let Me Go versus Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
This is a tricky one. So you're on an island, Alana. You're on a desert island.
Okay.
You have a television and 2 movies. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? And Never Let Me Go. What are you going to watch?
Never Let Me Go.
It is her favorite, Pete.
It is. That is a fairly predictable answer. Andy, what do you think?
I feel like I get more emotional, connection out of Never Let Me Go. I mean, I really enjoy Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I also feel like, I don't know, sometimes with that one, I feel like, I've seen it and I kind of, I'm not, I love it, but I'm not that keen on kind of hitting it up anytime soon. So I don't know. I'm feeling like I'm leaning toward Never Let Me Go on this one.
I'm telling you, I actually am on the Never Let Me Go train. This is, I feel like I wouldn't have been when I finished the movie yesterday. And again, proximity may be working into this, but I have been thinking about this film all day. I cannot get it out of my head. And so I feel like that deserves a nod here.
Absolutely. Well, next up we have Never Let Me Go or The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh.
I'm Never Let Me Go on this one too.
Yeah, I enjoy Benjamin Button, but I don't know. I feel like this one I ended up really connecting to a little bit more emotionally, maybe. So I'm going to say Never Let Me Go.
I'm going to say Never Let Me Go, even though that was tough because I do love Benjamin Button. It was good.
It definitely
only gets harder from
right
here.
On that one too,
great.
Never Let Me Go or The French Connection.
I haven't seen The French Connection, so Never Let Me Go.
All right. We've got an abstention. Andy, what do you think?
For me, this is French Connection. Actually,
it is.
It is.
I don't even know how to. Who are you? I don't know how to read you anymore. I thought I was going to be The French Connection, but since you did it, I'm going to let you have it.
Okay. So.
It's The French Connection.
It is French Connection. Okay. Sorry, Alana. It doesn't mean we didn't like it.
French Connection is really good.
Okay, now I feel like
Yeah,
definitely. Never Let Me Go or Moneyball. That's a tough one, Pete.
Oh, I'm Moneyball all the way. I adore that movie.
Have you seen that one, Alana?
I have. I'm sticking with mine.
All right, Andy's a tiebreaker.
Oh boy, I'm sorry, Alana. I'm going to go with Moneyball.
Sorry.
Never Let Me Go or Shaun of the Dead. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to go Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, I'd probably go Shaun of the Dead. Actually,
you do.
It's so good.
It's Shaun of the Dead.
Because if you're on an island, you're going to need some humor and cheering up, right?
Right.
So,
right.
There you go. Good justification.
Thank you.
All right, Never Let Me Go or Out of the Past. Great little noir.
Oh, I haven't seen that either.
I'm Never Let Me Go on this one, Andy.
I'm Out of the Past on this one.
Oh, all right. Well,
all right. You ready?
The Great Equalizer. Yes,
that's right.
1, 2, 3. Scissors.
Sorry. All right, so Out of the Past takes it there. Never Let Me Go or another Speakeasy film, The Silent Partner.
This one, you would be forgiven if you hadn't seen this one, Alana.
Nope. Sorry, guys.
It's definitely worth watching, though.
It really is totally worth watching.
Okay.
This was recommended by
Craig Anderson.
Craig Anderson. It was a great conversation. Andy, I'm going to guess that you're a silent partner on this.
I actually am Never Let Me Go.
No idea who you are. I'm also Never Let Me Go.
It's this film sticks with you.
Totally.
Never Let Me Go or The Great Escape. We just talked about that pretty recently.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the Never Let Me Go. Did you see that one, Alana?
Nope.
What?
Terrible. I know. I haven't seen anything. Apparently.
Oh, your list of shame is growing.
Gosh. Usually I'm never this person, but you guys, God. You guys are my competition. Tough.
That's right. That's right.
Never Let Me Go versus The Great Escape. Great Escape was a terrific World War II film. Steve McQueen, what are you going to do? And you picked Never Let Me Go?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, although
we were pretty high. We were pretty high on Great Escape. I don't know if you remember. It was just days ago.
I'm pretty soft on it though. It's like this is a pretty close one for me.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna push you on that. I'm picking Great Escape.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
You're very soft.
I told you I was soft.
All right, where does that leave us? Is that it?
At least I feel like I've gotten my connection to
principled lost. Yes.
There we go. Yes, that puts it at number 60 on our list. So this is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Out of nearly 250 films. So
cool.
You did a great job here.
This was a great pick. I call this a huge win for you and a great gift. I can't believe I hadn't heard of it, seen it, knew nothing about it. And it's so rare that I feel like I have that opportunity anymore to see a film completely blind. It's just, it was a really great experience. We have one more ranking thing. That's at letterboxd.com/thenextreel. Our partners over at Letterboxd, they are fantastic. Our film diaries over there, out of 5 stars. Alana, what is this for you?
4.5.
4.5. Andy,
Yeah.
there's your Andy's half star of love right there. What is it? Where are you?
I am at 4 stars with this one.
4 stars.
Yes.
Crying out loud. Can't read you at all. I'm going to give it the 4.5 stars. What do you think about that?
Right. It's fantastic.
I like it that much.
It's great. It's good stuff.
All right.
I am so thrilled that we got to talk about this film with you, Alana. Just absolutely fantastic. So now you're out there in the world. If you want people to find you, like, where should they go track you down? Are you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? Where are you in the world of social media?
I'm an emailer. I like an email. So my website, alanamorshead.com. You can contact me there.
And see some of your work.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your work that you're doing right now. What are you most excited about?
I worked on a film that's coming out called Equals, and it's coming out July 15th. And I'm super, super proud of it, and I hope you guys go see it.
Oh, yes.
It looks great.
It looks so good.
Considering the level of sci-fi we've been talking about with this film, it's like that feels really fitting for that to be kind of the next one of yours that's going to be out in theaters. Because it has that same vibe, It's an emotional connection of these characters in this interesting sci-fi world that doesn't feel too sci-fi.
Totally. It's another love story set in a sci-fi world, but just without the sci-fi elements.
Have you had an opportunity to see the film?
Yes.
You have seen it?
Yeah. The whole thing, yeah. I went to Venice and saw it last year. It premiered there, so that was incredible. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
well, it does. It looks delightful. We'll post a link to your site, and we'll put the trailer in the post so people jump to in the show notes. So just scroll down, everybody, right now. Look at your phone, scroll down, and tap on the extras because it's great, and it seems like a really sweet message too.
Yep.
It's a better island.
Yes.
We're going to do a whole series of people wearing white.
Yep. We should have all worn white today.
We should have all worn white
know.
tonight.
Should have planned that.
All right.
Well, thank you so much again for joining us in the next Real Speakeasy, Alana.
Thank you for having me.
And for those of you out there, we certainly hope you enjoyed the show. If you like what you've heard, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, Pinterest, Letterboxd, Flickchart, and now YouTube. And don't forget to head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and comment. It really does help more people find us. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, I've got another organ to go donate. I love having these wonderful chats on movies we like with all these industry guests talking about some of their favorite movies.
So many great conversations on that show about so many great movies.
We have so much fun having these conversations, but producing the show week after week does require a lot of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these incredible conversations.
The originals page at thenextreel.com/originals links to the source material for all the adapted film discussions on the Next Reel's family of podcasts. Purchasing through our links supports the show.
It's your one-stop shop for Amazon and Apple links where you can buy your copy of the original source material.
Original material for movies we like, movies like Casino Royale,
The Silent Partner,
Never Let Me Go,
Silver Linings Playbook,
There Will Be Blood, based on Upton Sinclair's Oil.
I believe it's Oil!
Oh yeah, I forgot the exclamation point.
Plus, by using those links to buy your next read, Apple and Amazon show us a little bit of love, which allows you to support our family of shows with minimal effort.
thenextreel.com/originals. It's a great way to support the show and find your next page turner.
That's right. Head over to thenextreel.com/originals to pick out your next read and dig in today.